Hi, I'm Jeremy Counselor, Dean of Baylor Law School, and welcome to a special cowboy hat edition of the Counselor's Corner podcast. It's a cowboy hat edition because I am joined today by my guest, third-year law student and country music singer-songwriter, Christian Parker. Christian, welcome to the podcast. I'm just curious, when did the interest in law school versus the interest in country music start?
Well, it's good to be here, Dean Counselor. I appreciate you having me on. The answer to that is that I've always loved music, right? You know, I've played music my entire life. My mom started me on piano when I was in second grade. And so, you know, plunking around. But I always wanted to play guitar. And so guitar started around fourth grade. And then, ironically, also I played the tuba.
Oh.
Yeah. Two-time All-State tuba player in the state of Arkansas. Yeah, and I did that through college. I marched in the band and everything like that.
Have you incorporated tuba into any of your songs?
You know, I looked that up one time. I go, is there a country song that involves a tuba? And the only thing that I could find was a bit on hee-haw. Now, for all the viewers of this show over the age of 60, they'll really appreciate the good hee-haw.
I know hee-haw, and I'm not over 60, just so you know. Right. You remember who's the guy? This is one of the greatest guitarists of all time is on hee-haw.
Yes, Roy Clark.
Roy Clark. Yeah. Sorry, I forgot his name.
Yeah, incredible guitarist. Yeah. He, Jerry Reed, Glenn Campbell, all those guys are some of the most underrated guitarists. And I think a lot of people wrote them off as just kind of being this, you know, act for a show. But if you look at the technical brilliance it required to do that, it was truly spectacular.
Yeah. So maybe don't discount the role of the tuba in future country music songs.
Correct.
Come up with.
Correct. Well,
could be your signature sound.
It could be. It could be. And when I do that, I'll be sure to put you in the credits for it.
Thank you.
Get some royalties.
Maybe as a co-writer as well. Yeah.
Featuring.
Anything with you and the tuba, I should get a writing credit.
I think so. And, you know, if you want to, we can I'll bring you out to Nashville and we can get you to sing on a song too.
I'm in. I mean, as long as you don't want it to sell or anything. Okay, so the interest in country music, that predates, obviously, law school. I'm wondering, when you come to law school, it's a full plate and then some, law school itself. What did that do to the performing arts side of you?
Well, I would say the interest in law school was always there. I come from a family of attorneys. My grandfather was a criminal defense attorney in the state of Arkansas. My father was an attorney, kind of a general practitioner. And, you know, in Arkansas, they call it threshold law because you're just doing whatever comes through the door because the market isn't big enough to really kind of specialize in all sorts of things. But so growing up, the importance of a law degree was really, really pushed inside my family. And the rationale behind it was, regardless of whether you ever practice, there is value in learning to think like a lawyer. It's very rational, logical. And I know one of the big things here at Baylor, too, they talk about, and when I remember when I was going through admissions and talking to Catherine Sims and other people, she goes, you know, by the time you graduate from Baylor Law, whatever you do, you'll be confident stepping into whatever situation you have. And I think there's a lot of utility, a lot of value in getting a law degree. But you're right, law school is, and certainly at Baylor, but I know law schools across the country, it is a full plate. And so you have to be very purposeful with the time that you have. And actually one of the reasons why I chose Baylor over other schools was that I liked that it was on a quarter system, because that would afford me more time to have breaks. You know, every 9 weeks you get, at a minimum, a week off, depending on the quarter. Obviously, you have more time. And so I had recorded part of my first album prior to coming to law school. I put out my first single called Shotgun in late February of 22. And then I was a summer starter. You remember, you were my Civ Pro professor. And
I do remember that.
Yeah, but I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing. But
it's good for you, I think.
I can recite the minimum contacts test if we need to do that.
Then
right
please
now.
do so.
If the defendant be not present within the territory of the forum, you have certain minimum contacts with it, such as maintenance of the suit does not offend traditional notions of fair play or substantial justice.
Bingo. You're in practice court, or you're currently in practice, or you finished practice court?
Yes, sir. I'm in my 9th quarter, and I'll be finishing practice court this week.
Okay. So for those who don't know, practice court is a required third-year program that focuses on evidence, procedure, advocacy, and ethics. And it involves a lot of courtroom exercises where you try a case or a part of a case. And one of the things that we try to instill in practice court is the importance of storytelling as a method of persuasion. I'm wondering if you see a connection between your writing and singing of country music and storytelling as a form of persuasion in the courtroom.
Absolutely. It's actually fascinating in a lot of ways how much crossover there is with that. And, of course, one of the first advocacy lectures you get in practice court is talking about kind of the psychological thing that happens whenever people get engaged in a story. And I believe Professor Little called it the didactic shift or something like that. And to answer this, I mean, you sit there and think about what is a song, right? I mean, oftentimes songs are just stories. You know, you're telling this, especially in country music, you know, you're telling the story of who is this person, what are they doing? You know, oh, I'm the cowboy out on the plains, or, you know, if I'm the Dixie Chicks, you know, I'm singing about, hitting a guy in the face with a frying pan or things like that. And there is power in storytelling because people can place themselves in the shoes of what's going on. And one of the things my producer, Sal Oliveri, taught me very early on about recording, because I never recorded music or anything. He said, especially in country music, people can smell BS.
Yep.
And the same thing is true in the courtroom, because as we're taught in practice court, trying a case is a credibility contest. And the exact same thing is true in music. It's, are you the person that is singing the song, or are you putting on airs? Are you all hat, no cattle? And the same thing is true with a jury. The jury can tell immediately whether you're trying to sell them a load of whatever, or whether you're being sincere and you're passionate about your client. And so I think there's a lot of crossover with that.
Yeah. I see that based on what you're saying, is that, you know, in a song that I enjoy, it's saying something that's true, and the same is true of a good case to a jury. It's exactly. A lawyer saying something that's true. You've done a lot of things here in law school. You were your first-year class president. I think your third-year current class president. Yes, what made you interested in that, and how has that experience been for you?
You know, I've always tried to get involved anywhere I go. You know, whatever situation you're in, I think you need to get involved and make the most of it, and anything like that. And of course, SBA, the Student Bar Association, is a good way to do that. And I've always kind of been involved in student government, things like that. I was my high school, school president. I was the IFC president at SMU, and just always kind of been involved in those things. And so I think that was the natural extension. And what that afforded me the ability to do is, I think, get to evaluate the law school or participate in it in a different role than maybe just going to lecture and taking exams and things like that. And I've enjoyed it. Made a lot of friends. Helped plan a lot of things. We did the faculty auction, which I've been the auctioneer for that the past 3 years, and I've really enjoyed getting to do that. I didn't think I would be capable of talking that fast, but
talk about what the faculty auction is for people who aren't familiar.
The faculty auction is one of my favorite events, and it's a thing that Baylor puts on every single year, and it goes towards the benefit. It's always happens around Christmas time, and it goes towards the benefit of Bells Hill Elementary School, and all the proceeds go to charity. And so SBA will reach out to various faculty members. I know you've participated. I know that this past 2 years, and yours last year was the highest grossing event. That was right after I think it crossed over $1,000.
Is that a nice way of saying that this year mine wasn't the highest grossing event?
You know, it was the second highest, and I think second place is a good thing. You know, it shows that there was interest in your event, but unfortunately, Professor Bates' Mystery Night may have edged you out. And I think just the allure of spending time with Professor Bates doing that. Anyway, the faculty will put on events, and then people can bid on it, and it's a good way for the students to meet the faculty.
No, it's a great event and for a great cause. Appreciate you working on that. It's just one thing that SBA does that's really valuable, and I think it's one of those organizations that lets the students see the law school from get a bigger picture of the law school and everything that's going on. Why do you think, you mentioned civil procedure, the civil procedure course I taught you during your first term in law school. Why do you think I called on you so much?
Well, you know, I have theories about this. I think it's that I was just so funny. Mm-hmm. And you're a guy who...
Was I laughing at any point during this?
Well, you know, I think there was suppressed laughter.
Okay.
And maybe it was at the joke, maybe it was at me. And I'm not sure that I really want to know the answer to that.
Okay.
But you have incredible comedic timing, I will say that. Anybody who comes to Baylor Law, you know, you can look forward to the classic counselor bits because there's classic bits, and they become part of the lore. And really, no Baylor Law education is complete without knowing what it means to slap the bear versus kill the bear.
That is important. Some of the people who listen to this podcast are probably future Baylor Law students, so I don't want to spoil that particular part about slapping versus killing bears. We'll save that for the classroom, and hopefully, the curiosity about that will cause them to come to Baylor Law School. I want to come back just briefly to the country music aspect of your multifaceted life. What songs do you turn to? Maybe some of your own, but even those of other artists. What songs do you turn to for stress relief or relaxation while you're in law school?
Well, that's an interesting question. Obviously, it depends kind of on what's going on and things like that. But some of the artists that I take a lot of enjoyment in listening to and comfort, I love Glenn Campbell. Glenn Campbell is, I think, probably my favorite country artist from Delight, Arkansas, so a fellow Arkansan. Incredibly virtuosic guitar player, but my favorite song of his is Wichita Lineman. And it's a song that I heard for the first time, sometime in my youth. And the lyrics have always just stuck with me because it's talking about this guy who, he's a lineman and working on the power lines, and he hears a woman in the telephone lines, and there's some beautiful lyrics in there. I need you more than I want you, and I want you for all time. I mean, what a powerful statement there. But I love rock music. I listened mostly actually to rock growing up. It wasn't really till I got to Texas that I really got interested in country music and kind of exploring that. I love, I'm on a Steely Dan kick, which is kind of interesting because the music there is fantastic, but lyrics-wise, I mean, there's just so many songs that you can think of and artists you can pull from. But I think specifically to answer your question, you have to take time in the midst of law school to step away from the law and give yourself time to reconnect with yourself and recognize sometimes that there's a world outside of Baylor Law. And sometimes that can be difficult, but nonetheless, it's critical and important.
Yeah. Learning to balance those things, I think, is one of the key things to learn in law school. You are coming to the end of your time in law school.
Yes.
I remember having you in civil procedure that
Yes.
summer. It really does seem like a month ago from my perspective. It probably seems like a longer journey for you, but it goes by quickly. I'm curious, you may not know, but what are your plans after law school? And in particular, do you plan to stay in Texas or go to back to Arkansas or elsewhere?
You know, one of the great things about having a law degree is that it affords you a lot of opportunities. Of course, now that we have the UBE too, I mean, you can get licensed.
Uniform bar exam.
Yeah, you can get licensed in so many states. My immediate plans are, I do have this dream, I have this passion to go make and perform music. Whether that hits, whether it doesn't, I don't want to be at a stage in my life 20, 30 years from now where I'm sitting here asking, what if? And so with that, so to answer your question directly, I'm going to Nashville, putting together, I think I'm going to do a third album. This is the first time this has ever been announced on anything, but I think I'm going to do a third album, and it's actually going to be called, I believe, Scales and Strings, because it's going to be a discussion between, look, you're giving up scales for strings, referring to the scales of justice, and then obviously strings on a guitar. And I think it's going to part of the focus is going to be discussing, you have this whole thing here, which is, white collar profession, something that a lot of people seek out, and then but you got to go chase the dream.
Yeah.
Now this scares the heck out of my mom because she's going, what you just went through all this, you spent all the time, the money, what are you doing here? And one of the good things about this is that I made some fantastic connections with people at Baylor, and particularly in the Dallas area, which is where I went to undergrad at, and I think I would like to end up at maybe someday. And I've made some connections with some firms, and the partners at the firms are very understanding and encouraging of this dream I have. And they said, hey, we're still going to need work. And so I think I got to maintain those relationships. But hey, in 2 years from now, if I've been out in Nashville and I say, hey, this isn't the life I want, I still have the opportunity to come back. And I don't think you're so far removed from law school that you would have forgotten maybe everything.
I say go get them, man. I mean, because you're right. You don't want to look back and wonder what might have been.
Exactly.
Yeah, you want to go get them. Okay, lightning round. You have to answer quickly. If you could live anywhere in the world for a year, where would it be and why?
Why would you ever want to not live in the great state of Texas?
Good answer. If you could instantly master one hobby or sport, what would it be?
Ooh. I wish I was a better guitar player, but you're probably looking for something more novel than that. I think it would be really cool to just randomly be very good at chess.
Oh, that's a good one.
Yeah.
Are you a morning person or a night owl?
Well, practice court has made me a morning person, but I would say my default is a night owl.
Got to be flexible.
Exactly.
All right, favorite restaurant in Waco?
Barris.
I like that answer.
Yeah. I've seen you there a couple times.
Have you?
Yeah.
I've not seen you there. I'm sorry.
Oh, it's make an impact.
If you could have any animal as a pet, not a dog or a cat or a goldfish, what would you pick?
Elephant. I think that'd be pretty cool.
Another
Impractical,
good answer.
but I think it would be good.
Mine's a killer whale.
Really?
Yeah, but I don't want to cage them up. It'd have to be like a pet that was free to live in the ocean, but would come visit me when I walk down to the shore.
Willy situation.
No, yeah, I want him already free. All right, I understand you have a question for me.
I do have a question for you, and I think this is important not just for just understanding more about you, but I think this will end up applying to a lot of students once they get out. Now, you have been a professor at Baylor Law since 2003. You were in private practice, then you started as an assistant professor in 2003, and you've been here, you've worked your way up. Obviously, now you're the dean of the law school. During that time, you must have, and I know you did, conferred, or started and maintained a lot of friendships with colleagues, faculty, staff that are still here.
Mm-hmm.
Some of which have been here longer than you have.
Yeah.
Some of which have more tenure or something like that. And once you moved from your role as a tenured professor and practice court professor to dean, you assume new responsibilities. And that necessarily has to change in some way the relationships that you have with your colleagues who knew you as a friend, fellow professor, and now you're their boss.
Mm-hmm.
And I think law students, if they go out into practice, maybe you start with a cohort of fellow associates. And because they're Baylor lawyers, they're going to excel very quickly. And maybe they make partner before everybody else. And now you have responsibilities. And it changes that relationship. I guess my question then is, how do you navigate being the boss of people that used to be your equal, your friends, and if or when that necessarily conflicts, how do you manage your duties to the institution versus maybe your desire to maintain a friendship?
Yeah. Well, the first thing you do after becoming dean is you go door to door to all your friends on the faculty and you go, hey, I'm your boss now, and don't you forget it. That's step number one. No, I don't. Sometimes some of my colleagues will say, hey, boss, but I can tell they're being sarcastic. Mm-hmm. I mean, one thing about our faculty is that it's very collegial. We make decisions by consensus. There's most everything we do is something that we've discussed, and so a lot of times the role of the dean is not to make the decision, but to sort of frame the issue for discussion, and we proceed by consensus. That's not to say that there aren't decisions that have to be made, but everyone here would agree all decisions should be made in the interest of what is best for Baylor Law School rather than an individual member of the faculty or staff. And I think if you keep that as your guide, you can move forward. I also think it's important that people feel like they get a chance for input, that they get a chance to say what they think about an issue, and then even if the decision goes in a different direction, I think most of the time people will say, well, I got my chance to say something, and I may not agree with the decision, but I can live with it because I was able to provide input. I feel like I was heard, that it was considered. And so I hope to have that kind of an environment. But the truth is, I mean, a lot of people, the smart people don't want to be the dean of a law school. I mean, that's the other thing. I mean, it's not like I beat people out. They don't want to do it. So it isn't as sort of maybe competitive as you might think. But I will say it's a tremendous privilege to be the dean. I try to remind myself of that every day, of just what a privilege it is to be a part of the institution, and now to be the dean has just been a real privilege. I'll leave it at that. Christian, thanks so much, man. This has been really interesting.
We'll see you at graduation.
Absolutely.
February 8th.
Yeah.
Give the invocation.
Oh, I am? You are?
I am.
Okay.
I
You're
am.
giving the invocation. Very good.
Yeah, nobody knows how the heck they let me do that.
All right, remember, it's not a speech. It's a prayer.
Yes.
Right? Don't be speeching at God. That's
Listen,
really important.
I would never attempt to speech at the unmoved mover.
Others have. Thanks, man. Appreciate it.
Thank you so much. Appreciate it.